Okay, what if you could literally sculpt your own brain, like it was a piece of clay? Today, we are jumping into a really fascinating text called Neuroplasticity and Meditation's Living Fire, and it explores how ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience are basically saying the same thing. You have this radical power to reshape your own mind.
See, this is about so much more than just, passively observing your thoughts. It's about taking the driver's seat. It's about reaching in and molding what the text calls the clay of your brain, which suggests you can be an active participant in how your mind is wired.
And at the absolute heart of this whole idea is this powerful metaphor of an inner ember. The idea is that this isn't just some passive little point of awareness that's just watching your inner world go by. No, it's an active force. It can reshape it. It can sculpt.
That is the big question, isn't it? Is this all just beautiful poetry, or is there a real biological mechanism that actually lets us intentionally change the structure of our own minds? Well, let's find out.
To even begin to answer that, we have to start with the core scientific concept that makes any of this possible in the first place, and that is neuroplasticity.
The source material just puts this so beautifully. You see, neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. It means your brain isn't some fixed, static organ that you're stuck with. It's constantly being rewired by your experiences, your actions, and even your thoughts. This is the biological proof that change is always possible.
But before you can start sculpting, you gotta understand the clay itself and the deep grooves that are already carved into it. And this brings us right to the problem of habit. Think of your brain for a second like a landscape. Every time you have a thought or you do something, you're wearing a tiny little path. Now, do that over and over for years, and those paths become deep, deep ruts. Those are our habits, our automatic reactions, our default ways of thinking. These are the neural circuits for things like craving or anxiety or just constant distraction. They're super efficient, for sure, but they can also keep us completely trapped. Now, this is where the text gets truly fascinating. Because its poetic language, it turns out, maps directly onto hard, concrete neuroscience. So let's decode some of these powerful metaphors. So, the text introduces this almost mythical-sounding figure, right? The keeper of the inner sun. But this isn't just poetry. It refers to a very real and unbelievably important part of your biology. So, who is the keeper? Well, it's the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN for short. This tiny little cluster of cells is your body's master clock. It controls your circadian rhythms, and get this, it literally gates the very windows when your brain can most easily rewire. It turns out, when it comes to changing your brain, timing is everything. And here's how it works. The SCN, especially in those pre-dawn hours, ramps up the production of a protein called BDNF. And you can just think of BDNF as miracle grow for your brain. It is the fertilizer that helps new connections, new synapses grow. It's wild. The ancient Vedic rishis called this time Brahma Muhurta, the hour of the creator, because they just knew, intuitively, that the mind was most malleable then. This insight leads to a completely radical reframing of what meditation even is. The source argues it's not about zoning out or just, chilling. It's an active, focused, directed process. It's a fire. So, what is this neuroplastic fire then? Well, it's the process of targeted rewiring. When you meditate, you quiet the endless chatter of the default mode network. That's the part of your brain that's running wild when you're mind wandering or just thinking about yourself. And at the exact same time, studies of long-term meditators show they physically thicken areas of the brain that are responsible for attention and self-awareness, like the insula and the prefrontal cortex. You're literally growing new brain real estate for awareness. So, okay, we have the right time of day, and we have the right tool. But how does the simple act of just paying attention actually create physical change in the brain? I mean, this is such a powerful way to think about it. That moment in meditation when you notice your mind has wandered off and you gently bring it back to your breath, that is not a failure. That is the exercise. That's the whole rep. Every single time you do that, you are actively strengthening one neural circuit and weakening another. You are performing microsurgery on yourself. The science behind this is something called Hebbian law, which is usually simplified to neurons that fire together, wire together, right? So every time you focus your attention, you are strengthening those neural connections. And at the same time, the pathways you stop using, those old, worn-out ruts of anxiety, they get weaker and are eventually pruned away. In neuroscience, that weakening process is called long-term depression. Put simply, what you pay attention to grows stronger, and what you neglect just withers away. And look, this isn't just a theory. A famous 8-week study on mindfulness meditation showed just incredible results. Participants increased brain density in areas crucial for attention and emotional regulation. And even more amazing, the amygdala, the brain's fear and panic center, it actually shrank. Just think about that for a second. That means a less reactive stress response, a calmer daily existence, all from this practice. That is physical, measurable change in just 2 months.
Now, the best part is, this isn't just abstract knowledge. The source text gives us a precise, actionable ritual to put all of this into practice. The whole practice takes advantage of this critical window of time. Studies are showing that a specific 20-minute sequence, timed perfectly with the sunrise, can powerfully increase that brain fertilizer BDNF, and it can even reset the very genes that control your internal clock. Okay, so here's the ritual itself. First, you sit in total darkness about 30 minutes before sunrise. No phones, no nothing. Second, you do a specific breathing pattern to calm the nervous system. Third, you turn your attention inward to the biological spot of the SCN, visualizing it as a steady, glowing ember. And fourth, as the sun finally rises, you let that first light fall on your closed eyelids for 20 minutes. This isn't a spiritual poetry. As the text says, this is, quote, chronobiology and neuroplasticity fused into living ritual.
So this all leads us to the final and I think the most powerful takeaway from the entire text: reclaiming your role as the architect of your own mind. See, this whole process isn't about patching up an old version of yourself. It's not really self-improvement. It's more like self-replacement. With every single focus session, you are literally replacing old, worn-out wiring with new wiring. You are building a new brain, synapse by synapse.
But this process of change, it requires commitment. This inner fire doesn't negotiate with your old habits. It doesn't ask permission from your old anxieties. It's a transformative force that, as the text says, simply burns away what is not essential, leaving behind a brain that's more resilient, more focused, and more aware.
And that's where we're going to leave it. The science is clear, the potential is just staggering. So the question this text leaves us with isn't whether you can sculpt the clay of your brain, but rather, with this fire now in your hands, what will you choose to burn away?